Hi, Chris McClune here again for live at FDIC, coming to you from the Firehouse Subs podcast studio. This podcast is brought to you by Firehouse Subs, the firefighter-founded hot sub chain with a passion for hearty and flavored food, heartfelt service, and public safety. If you're ready for your next mission, Firehouse Subs is offering firefighters the opportunity to continue serving after service now as restaurant owners. So learn more at www.firehousesubsfranchising.com. Well, we're back at live at FDIC, and my guest this time is Bill Gardner with ESO. This is becoming an annual thing for us to be talking here. And you know, I have a question for you about the future, but why don't we just start off? What's been going on this year for ESO?
It's been a fantastic year, Chris. I always appreciate y'all having us back here at FDIC. I get to have my annual sit and chat with you, which is always good. I think this year, amongst all things at ESO, has been the focus of changing of data. And from the NERIS rollout coming live, the closing of the Nemesis 3.5 for EMS, the ability of connecting that data and then applying machine learning and artificial intelligence. It's been truly focused this year on some things that really excite me about what are we going to do with all this information. So yeah, that's been a lot for us this year.
Now, looking ahead, what can we expect in the next few years as we talk about documentation for fire EMS?
As an old fire chief and old firefighter, one of the things, and you will appreciate this, none of us ever promoted to the officer seat to go write reports. It didn't. And none of us ever wanted to do that. So why are we still doing it today? Our goal is, over the next coming years, is the ability to take all the data, all the information that's there, combine that into a system, and decrease that workload. Change what those firefighters are having to do. Change what those paramedics are having to do. And it's reasonable. It's doable. Our goal, quite honestly, is by the time we get through the next 2 years, when you go on a fire incident report, if you have certain things in place in your organization, you have a CAD system, you have a radio system, you have an incident command platform, you manage all of that will take that information using some secured artificial intelligence, create that report, and basically you just check and make sure it's what you really wanted to say. The amount of time we'll give back for firefighters for recovery, training, involvement, and the accuracy of the data of what's really happening in our fire service today will be just amazing. So I'm absolutely excited about where we're going with that.
It's kind of funny you said that. I'm thinking, who would have thought report writing would lead to health and safety advances and, making time for training and all that stuff?
It was never, we always, it was a necessity, and it was the evil of the necessity. And, going through the times, and just like you're going through the ranks, moving up, when you were a battalion chief, having to call and go, hey, y'all got to finish these reports before you go home. Hey, the ambulance, I get it. Y'all been out for, 24 hours and this. I got to have some reports done. All of those things. But the big piece about it is that really excites me is we're struggling to recruit people in today. We're struggling to get people to want to do these things. And it's because of some of the tasks that's associated with this and some of the things we're doing. The better our intelligence gets, the better we serve the communities. That means that there's some opportunities for us to get benefit from that. You and I both know the safest fire a firefighter ever goes to is the one that never actually started. The one where the safest medical event is where preventive medicine prevented it from happening. All of those things are our world today, and this will give us a chance to do it.
You mentioned artificial intelligence, AI. How is the data for that AI obtained at ESO? I mean, you gotta get all those pieces to make it work.
It's funny. We were at a conference the other day, and someone asked, "Define what AI is." And if you want to look at it, it's a lot of different definitions, and depending on who wants to answer that question that day. But one of the things that we have come to a pretty good consensus about is artificial intelligence is an item that actually does an action. The machine learning that provides it that education is what really is concerning today. You hear the term ethical AI and ethical machine learning. One of the things that's really concerning is people just using open information. And it is easy to manipulate, it's easy to change. ESO, we're very fortunate. We've been given great opportunities, and with great things comes great responsibility, and we've had years of being able to collect and secure our data internal. Our data has also had some standardization built around it. So we've had the ability to take, and we run, 1 million plus fire reports and somewhere around 2 million plus EMS reports a month through our system, and it's a secured, closed system. So our machines get to learn from well-defined information that's not open to anyone else. And it's the ability to have learning take place in a safe environment, but it's a quantity enough that you can have an educated item and it's not out there. So we've worked through that. To make that work, we've worked with some of the largest folks. We've worked with Microsoft directly to keep secure around that. They've done a great job with what they did with ChatGPT and all different things. And they knew a lot about not just putting up barriers. A lot of people say, well, we put up barriers. They knew about how to host and separate and keep our data separated and cleaned so we could get to this point as we were moving this way. And so it's given us a real opportunity to change at what that is. Then looking at the learning advancements of taking all of those EMS calls, because we have all the hospital outcomes, including where they discharged, what were they discharged with, what did they go through, what was the final diagnosis, all the work, integrating all of that in. So when you're getting that and continuing to take care of patients and giving, what we refer to as a longitudinal record, that person's medical record that comes into your patient care report as soon as you get there, that's how we're going to save time. That's how we're going to be better at what we do. The same thing with an inspection report should fall into your pre-plan as soon as it's locked and closed, that then in turn falls into as soon as you roll out the door, it's feeding your report. You shouldn't even have to worry about getting it, feeding your report, feeding you those other tools. So that's what's going to change data. And we always talk about, we've got to make this data where we use it. If we do that, it'll change the calls we go on.
How should we be using that data? Like what should we be doing? All the stuff that's collected, what should we be doing with that? I guess on the fire service side.
I think the fire service side, the number one thing is, are we making our operational decisions based off of that data? And is the data standard available, and is it comparable? One of the things that we talk with people about all the time with this as a partner at ESO is, how many calls are you going on that really you didn't need to go on? But we don't know that. We don't always know what that is. Right. So taking that data and doing the predictive abilities with that, and then underlying that with other data. How many of us have the connection to not just the sprinkler systems, but where the actual smoke detector duct is? And is it 1, 2, 3 heads? You and I both know, if I've got a smoke detector duct that's activated, and that's all that's activated, okay, maybe there's a different response. But I've got 5 ducts and 3 heads flowing.
Yeah.
We're working something. We need to be taking all of that data in with this data, and then looking at the frequency of where you are, and then deciding that response. I think as we start modifying and defining our response for a more safer response for everybody, ourselves, the citizens, the people with the emergencies, it's going to help us then determine where do we actually need our resources.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then what resources do we need? The fire service today is expensive, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. The cost of fleet, the cost of equipment, the cost of protecting our men and women, the changes coming in PPE, things that we need to do to take care of all of ourselves. That data needs to help drive what that is. And if we're not collecting a standardized data and we're worried about collecting, I always joke about, well, I need to be able to customize all my data. Well, help me understand why it's important to understand that you treated 10 people with blue eyes on a Thursday of the month. What are we going to do with that? Because that may be something we need to do for everyone. And it's just, we have to get a little bit out of our comfort zone, but more importantly, we have to get back into the approach of let's look at all of this data and let's get data beyond just getting there.
Gotcha. We have been talking about, I think this is probably the fourth one of these types of podcasts I've done today. And all of them, I don't think one of them has not used the word data at some point. I mean, this is like, this is big stuff. But one of the things one thing that collects a tremendous amount of our data is NERIS. So what should we be thinking about as NERIS begins to go live?
NERIS is going to be one of those things. We've had a great opportunity working with Craig and Steve, and when Tom came on board, working with those folks over at FSRI. One of the things that we looked at was trying to help resolve getting the right data with this process. And nothing's perfect. I think one of the things that we're going to see is the ability to get a little more operational data than what we've had. And some of it is going to be that we've stopped collecting certain data that no one ever did anything with.
Okay.
We've got, 50 years of certain amounts of data, and I don't know that it's right because we never had any parameters around it. One of the things I joke about all the time is firefighters making a value estimate on something that burns or something that was done there, even using a formula. The cost in one part of the country is not the same as the cost in another part of the country. Did they make those estimate flows, and did we adjust for the cost when cement was going up and steel was going up? Did we do all of those things? It's just hard. That's not what we were called to do. Can we tell you what size hose we used, how much water we flowed? Can we tell you where we put that water? Those are the things that we're really good at that, and we need to collect that data to help us determine those things. As well as I did, we went through all of the approaches on how we were going to manage ventilation from one extreme to the other. And we've come back to the concept of there's not one answer for everything. You need to be adaptable. You need to understand your building construction. You need to understand your fire. I think that's where we're going to be a little bit with this data set. It's not going to be perfect day one. We're going to collect some stuff. I think there's some things we're probably going to need to add to it in time to collect, and I think we're going to find some stuff that doesn't need to be there. But people need to embrace the change. They also need to understand it's not a complete set today. It's just not. We know that. We work with what we have, and they need to work on being able to collect some additional data around their people. That's not a NERIS thing. That's a government thing that doesn't allow them to do some of those things. But collecting your people, collecting their PPE, collecting what they did during that scene is critical today. It's probably more critical now than it ever has been. And I think looking at where spending is and different items taking place in the federal government today, having that information locally is going to be just as important as getting it into the national registry. I think we should take care of those items, and you need to collect that data on top of the NERIS data, on top of your operational response data and your readiness data. Ms. Jones has never complained about what color the fire truck was or the name on the side of it. What she wanted was professional, high quality, quick response that solved the problem. This data is going to tell us what the problem is, not just today, but what the data is going to help us get to is what's the problem tomorrow.
Well, if anyone needs to get more information, for those who aren't at the show, you're here at the show.
Oh, absolutely.
But for those who aren't at the show, who need a little bit more information about ESO, how can they get in touch with you?
ESO.com. Go to the website. We have all the socials, all the media's out there that's there. But just go to the website, plug in, ask your question, go to the spot, say you want to talk to somebody, say you got a question, and we'll get back to you because we understand that your time is crucial, and we want to get back and help you solve that next problem.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks again, Bill. This is for our annual event here.
Yes,
this
sir.
is turning into a thing. I want to also thank Firehouse Subs again for everything they've done for FDIC and, in fact, sponsoring this podcast booth. So, again, this has been Chris McClune for Live at FDIC. Have a good one and stay safe. Thanks again, Bill.
Thanks, Chris.